Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Let me make sure my volume is right. I might have jumped the gun on starting this one, but we'll see. So I hope everyone is doing okay. I have a few of these to do tonight, so I'm going to be in and out. I am unsure. Okay, good. Sounds good. I am unsure how many of these I'll do where I get the opportunity to engage a large amount, but let's see where we go. You never know. So I haven't done one of these in a while. So Deadbeat Dad Joe Walsh, come on down. You, sir, are the next contestant. Now, you may not know who Deadbeat Dad Joe Walsh is. You might say, who the hell is Deadbeat Dad Joe Walsh? I don't know who that guy is. That guy's somewhat of a nobody. That guy's some random guy. No, believe it or not, Deadbeat Dad Joe Walsh is not a random guy. Deadbeat Dad Joe Walsh used to be part of the Obama era. He was one of the Tea Partiers, loudmouth, energetic, oftentimes didn't know what the hell he was talking about. Screaming about fiscal rectitude, fiscal responsibility, lecturing the President of the United States about fiscal issues. He was an economics guy. That's what he was brought to Washington for. I'm going to get this government to spin correctly. This is what he was on CNN one day. He told a person right here. He said, where is it? Right here. Right here. I won't place one more dollar of debt upon the backs of my kids and grandkids unless we structurally reform the way this town spends money. That's pretty strong. That's pretty strong. You know, part of the reason, though, that it is vitally important to understand the quantity to which you're dealing with when you're listening to people give their commentary, and that's, you know, be it on the left, be it on the right, is because just because somebody asserts something doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. And to some degree, you want to be able to interrogate where they're coming from when you're trying to understand what they're telling you. Sometimes where they're coming from is not necessarily an honest place. Now, that being said, whether it's an honest place or not, if you're lecturing the world about fiscal rectitude and fiscal responsibility, and we need to structurally reform the way this town spends money, and a story is released showing that you're a deadbeat dad, then that somehow impugns your testimony. You don't even have your own house in order. It's nice to, you know, say Deadbeat Dad Joe Walsh settled with his wife. Kudos. Kudos. Unfortunately, it's not just the child support. It's a litany of things that Deadbeat Dad Joe Walsh is a part of. Tammy Duckworth, his political opponent, but she sums it up beautifully. Right here. Joe Walsh has repeatedly failed to meet his responsibilities. During the 1900s, he did not pay his taxes on time on several occasions and had tax liens filed against him. In 2000, Joe Walsh was sued for not paying his new furnace. In 2009, the bank foreclosed on his property. Walsh's campaign manager from 2010 sued him for not getting paid. Walsh admitted in the Daily Herald that he did not pay child support from March 2008 to December 2010. Regardless of whether or not he's having his taxpayer-funded salary garnished to finally pay his child support and an election year settlement, Joe Walsh's claim that he is not a deadbeat just does not square with the fact that he repeatedly does not pay his taxes or his bills on time, said Caitlin Fay, campaign manager for Duckworth for Congress. Now, fair enough. This is the campaign of the other person. But this just so happens has the benefit of being true. It just so happens to have the benefit of being true. So when I use the term deadbeat, I'm using the term deadbeat. There's another added bonus to this. He's apparently the most corrupt person or one of the most corrupt people in Congress. Or was in Congress, I'm sorry. He failed miserably and is now out of Congress. Let me fix this because this is annoying me. Oh, I see. This is because I didn't widen this. There's nothing wrong with that. Oh, that's my fault. Fair enough. Right here. Representative Joe Walsh is a deadbeat dad who claimed he was too broke to pay his child support for years, but somehow managed to loan his campaign over $35,000. At the same time, he was paying more for rent than he reported in income. That's magical. That's awesome. It's no wonder that he's been named Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington as one of the most corrupt members of Congress. Oh, ain't that sweet? Ain't that sweet? Why am I going through the litany of failures that is Joe Walsh, that is deadbeat dad Joe Walsh? I'm doing it for two reasons. One, in the same way that he was trying to tell Obama about fiscal responsibility while at the same time owing $100,000, it was more than that, $117,000 in child support, depriving his kids of bread and food and water. I want to say bread and water, but bread and water sounds like a prison thing. But depriving his kids of the things that they needed based on the resources that was owed to them. Nobody told you to have those kids, Joe. Nobody told you to have those kids. And it shouldn't take the state to get you to pay for those kids. Deadbeat dad Joe Walsh. How embarrassing. But deadbeat dad Joe Walsh remains lurking in the shadows like a hunchback or a vampire or a syphilitic king that doesn't necessarily want to be seen by the population unless they see his nose falling off. Pawing. Every so often still saying something about fiscal responsibility. Well, in this case, deadbeat dad Joe Walsh has made an appearance. He can't pay his bills on time. He can't pay his child support on time, but he can find time to be on Twitter. And in finding time to be on Twitter, he's attacking Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. That's awesome. Right here. Let's use this one. Damn, where is it? I have too many tabs open. All right. Right here. Ocasio 2018 is proof that just because you have a degree in economics doesn't mean you actually understand economics. The guy who couldn't pay child support to his wife and kids. The guy who deprived his kids of the things that they needed, but could loan his campaign $35,000. The guy who paid too much for his rent, apparently was paying more for his rent than apparently he was claiming on his taxes. Deadbeat dad Joe Walsh, one of the most corrupt members of Congress when he was in Congress before he failed shamefully, embarrassingly out of Congress. Lecturing someone with a degree in econ on economics. What did he find so offensive? Wondering how many other House Democrats have a degree in economics like I do. Good on you. Kudos. Trying to find who out here is going to be in the Gini coefficient appreciation squad. Not many. Most of those people are ideological actors. I think the unemployment numbers that you just talked about is part of the problem, said Ocasio-Cortez, because we look at these figures and we say the unemployment is low and everything is fine, right? Well, unemployment is low because everyone has two jobs. Unemployment is low because people are working 60, 70, 80 hours a week and can barely feed their kids. Nothing that she said that was wrong. All of that was absolutely true. I don't know what the hell deadbeat dad Joe Walsh is talking about. But after all, he's a deadbeat dad. Joe Walsh is one of those stupid smart people, if they call it that. He believes that he knows stuff. And yet, physical matter reality will say otherwise. Can't pay your kids. You weren't paying for your kids. Now, this comes to me at a personal spot. My mom and dad weren't together. They weren't married when I was born. My dad was either amazingly virile or I was very determined because apparently my mom was on the pill when I was conceived. But that said, they weren't together. My dad was somewhat of a rolling stone. Now, in them not necessarily being together, I grew up for the most part not knowing that part of the family. I didn't even realize people had another part of the family, I mean a dad's side of the family. All of my understanding, even to this day, I could bump into somebody from that side of the family that would not know who they are. They may know me, I would not know who they are. I don't necessarily feel I missed anything because how would I know? Now, I am pretty sure that I have missed something. I'm pretty sure that there are aspects of life that you would have received from having a dad in the household and all this other stuff. I initially dealt with this from the standpoint of anger, then apathy, and then a little bit of sorrow at my behavior because I didn't necessarily get over fast enough. And not sorrow because I was wrong for being pissed off, but more so, look, being pissed off sometimes there needs to be a luft. Meaning sometimes there needs to be this disconnect between where you were versus where you are in order to go forward. And that's one of those things where it took too long for me to realize that point. He's just a guy. And if I would have realized it's just the guy who made fuck-ups and everything else, that doesn't mean there aren't things that burn me. And one of the things that burned me was something that took place that's similar to what took place with Joe, Deadbeat Dad Walsh. Well, in my situation, my dad was supposed to pay child support. It was haphazard. It was minor because ultimately it was split between multiple people. But there went a long time where there was none. There was a long time that there was none. Or just minor, tiny amounts. Why does it take the state to make you pay for your responsibilities, Joe? Why? Why? Why do you need Uncle Sam to tell you that you need to pay for your kids? And why, after not being able to pay for your kids and pay for your other responsibilities, but being able to find a bunch of money to pay for your rent and find a bunch of money to pay for your campaign, why, after this much mismanagement of funding, do you somehow believe you have some kind of special knowledge of economics? It's not clear to me. I suspect it wasn't clear to your constituency, seeing as your ass is sitting at home right now. Deadbeat Dad Joe Walsh, ladies and gentlemen, lurching from the shadows, pawing. A nobody. Another nobody. And yet, still floats around, lurking around the seams and the edges. Oh, by the way, she responded to him on this. And I responded to him on this. He didn't respond back to me. I wish he did. I said, what about the econ of rampant corruption? Explain that to us, corrupt deadbeat dad Joe Walsh. And there was another one. Deadbeat dad Joe Walsh that failed out of Congress. I remember you. Still an embarrassment. I see. Still an embarrassment. I didn't get a response from any of these. I'm offended. He's supposed to be a loudmouth. Have you paid your child support? How about those economics? 100,000. Explain the economics of being a deadbeat dad. I'm all ears. We're all ears. Explain the economics of being a deadbeat dad, Joe Walsh. Explain that to us. How do you go all that time without making sure your kids get the money that they need, or that the money you're supposed to give them? And not just that, why do you need the state to tell you to pay for your kids? You had them, pay for them. Had them, pay for them. That was a thing that happened to me. We were, my mom was in the hospital. I was in the hospital. And my mom, I told you, I think I've said this before, they were threatening to fire her. She worked for the city of Richmond. And they were threatening to fire her because I was in and out of the hospital. And every time I was in the hospital, she would have to be in the hospital. Like she would come and stay and so forth. I hated visitors coming to the hospital because I used to always be somewhat annoyed by them seeing me in the condition and them being there in the first place. I didn't like it. But I was okay with her coming. And I find out that there's this thing that if you work for the city, you can transfer hours. So for example, because my dad worked for the city, he could have transferred vacation or sick time to her. Now he takes like a month vacation every year. And he tells her, no. He tells her, no, I'm not giving you any sick time. I'm not giving you the vacation time. Mind you, this is for his own kid. This is for his own kid. No, I'm not doing it. Turns around and gives it to somebody else. I never forgave him for that shit. Of all the fuck-ups and all the things that have taken place over the course of my life, that is the one brimming moment where there has never been forgiveness for. Now, I say that to say that deadbeat dad Joe Walsh, that was $100,000 that deadbeat dad Joe Walsh owed to his kids. And instead of giving that money to his kids, instead of making sure his kids had food on the table and a roof over their heads, instead of access to the things that they need, the ability to go to certain field trips, instead of making sure his kids were taken care of, his wife was stupid enough to sleep with him. So fair enough. But they're still his kids. He pays the money to his failing campaign. He gives the money to his campaign. I always say, you determine what you care about what you invest your energy and your resources into. And it's sad that deadbeat dad, corrupt non-congressman Joe Walsh chose his failing campaign. I'll leave it on that. All right, guys. I'll see you in a few, because this is somewhat of a nothing clip. I really dislike him. I disliked Joe Walsh when he first came to Congress. He was a loudmouth, know-nothing, extraordinarily energetic, which are not great combinations. It's like, why do you want somebody, energetic, know-nothing person? And yet his ass is still around, like a bad odor. He lingers. Bad odor, he lingers. I ended on this. Attacking Ocasio-Cortez. Amazing. I always wanted to tell people about economics. Couldn't figure out a way to make his economics where he could pay for his goddamn kids. Thanks, guys. Deadbeat dad.